Hello, hello, my friends. AmyR here with Prairie Paper and Ink. Welcome back to my face and my card making space. And yeah, I am the host of this week's Color Throwdown Challenge. For those not aware, it is just a group of makers and we have a new color challenge every week. I will have a link to that blog post in my blog post, always linked directly below the video for those that are newer or don't know how it works. In the description box directly below my videos, if you expand it, I have everything there for everyone. So the immediate link to my blog post that has the photos, picture links, everything. And then supply list, always linked as well. And then links to my social media and that sort of stuff. So check that out below if you are interested. And yeah, I'm going to show you guys the card I made. I used... Again, I couldn't resist these newer sunflower, like little sunflower bloom and the Bountiful sunflower blossom and this Windswept leaves wafer die. I'm loving them. Loving them so much. This is my third video, I think, with the sunflower ones. This one's like, I think appeared even more because I'm obsessed. I'm obsessed. I love it. I will have links to those videos at the end of this one. And yeah, I mixed them with some oldie but goodie products, and I did some ink smushing and some blending and some splattering, and I just had fun. I had a lot of fun making this card. So keep watching, and I will show you guys how I made it. So my first step for everything was my die cutting. So I die cut everything first. Off camera, I die cut some watercolor paper for what will be the petals of these sunflowers. And those are the parts I'm going to do ink smushing on. So I've just got one of my Tim Holtz non-stick craft mats. Rolled that out, and I'm using Concord and 9th Stardust ink. And I smushed that onto the craft mat, sprayed some water, and then I get inky. Now, you can always do this on just panels of cardstock and die cut with whatever die cuts you want. I personally like die cutting first. It's just habit. Plus I like seeing where, the color's going, the little splotchiness and all that kind of stuff. And I also don't mind getting ink like all over me. Like my hands look jaundiced at the moment because of this like yellow shade of ink. But yeah, this is one of those things that, especially like ink smushing or just creating backgrounds. If you're feeling very stuck or not creative, or you don't have a lot of time, but you want to do something creative, make some backgrounds. Just play with inks or watercolors, whatever is your like favorite thing to do. Create some backgrounds and then later die cut them or use them as your like background of your card. Or die cut them down, cut sentiments from them. The sky's the limit, really. And it's great. For me, I personally love it when I'm feeling a little bit stuck or just not sure what direction I'm going. I like to do like die cut some florals, some greenery, smush them into ink. That for me is just unbelievably therapeutic. I've had a lot on my plate lately. Those that follow my social media know. And there was a comment on one of my last card video, and they're like, I wish I could create as fast as you. That is the magic of video editing. Sometimes my videos are actually multiple days of just fitting in what I can, or multiple days of literal, die cutting, working, editing, yada, yada, yada. And yeah, that sort of a thing. But with stuff like this, specifically, this card actually came together. I wasn't feeling the direction. I was just kind of like doing what I enjoyed, which was these blooms. And then it all just kind of came together because, yeah, this is one of my favorite things is the ink smushing and the blending and die cuts of all things. When die cutting first really became big in the card making industry, I was like, I liked it a bit, but it wasn't, I was like, I prefer stamping. I love die cutting, man. I love die cutting. I love creating with die cuts. I love putting them together and ink smushing them and blending them, obviously, because I have a bajillion videos showing it. So, anywho, the flower centers were just die cut from Neenah Desert Storm cardstock. And on those, I had blended Simon's Cappuccino Positively Saturated Ink, which goes on darker and it dries back much lighter. It's very subtle. So if you wanted like more dark with the Desert Storm, I would go with like Mocha ink. And then the greenery, I die cut from just some white cardstock. And on this, I'm blending Concord 9th's Tide Pool and Oceanside inks. And I will have links to everything. I've been talking about this a lot because I've been getting a lot of questions. As far as my own personal opinion, the Simon Says Stamp Positively Saturated inks and Concord and 9th's inks, the ink pads themselves, basically the same thing. The formula, I cannot say for certain that they're the exact same. They are similar is what I will say. They play well together. They blend similarly. They dry similarly. Ink smush, all the things I've been doing with them, they're very similar. And what I am loving is the Simon Says Stamp Positively Saturated inks. They're very bright, like the whole kind of colorway they've got because of the 60 colors. Like I would call them bright colors, which for me personally, love. I love it. They are my colors. I love them. So that's great. And then the Concord 9th have very complementary colors in my opinion. Like there's a lot of muted colors and some deeper ones, and they play so well together and they complement each other. So it's like, for me, again, I'm just glad that I got all the Concord 9 things. I kind of was like, but I've said this a million times. Like I like having all the colors and all the things. It's not physically possible. I don't have the budget or the space, but I'm very glad I got the Concord inks. And the more I've been playing with them, because they're newer, the new colors anyway, but the more I've been playing with them since I got them, which was only in the last couple months, something like that. Yeah, mixing and matching them with Simon's inks, I'm super happy with it. So anyway, I only did the ink smushing on the petals. Everything else I did ink blending. So it just slightly different looks. And I need to do that more because I generally go big or go home. You guys have seen on my cards. It's like if I start ink smushing, everything gets ink smushed. Every layer gets ink smushed and then all the splatter, etc., which is great. I love it. I think it looks great. It's fun, but it's also fun to kind of mix and match. You know, you get those different looks. So the petals are ink smushed. The centers were blended and onto the Desert Storm cardstock, and then the leaves were the die cut from white and blended with those two shades of aqua colors, which chef's kiss. So I set all those aside, and then I pulled out, this is the oldie but goodie friendship text background stamp. This came out eons ago, and like I do with most of my background stamps, I just put it face up on my work surface. I inked it up with that same Cappuccino Positively Saturated ink, and then I pressed a panel of that Desert Storm cardstock into it. I cleaned off that background stamp, and then my card base is a top folding A2 note card from Simon's Ivory cardstock, and I cleaned off the stamp, and I'm inking it up with that Stardust ink. And the one thing to note with both of these ink lines is the ink pads are softer. They're still a firm foam pad, but they are softer than your typical felt pads. Like, for example, like a Distress ink pad. If you're familiar with those are a firm felt pad with a linen cover. Like, you can press quite hard with those, you know, to do all your techniques, everything. These are foam. You do not need to press as much, especially when inking up stamps. Very light tapping. Just be very gentle, even more gentle than you think you need. That's my biggest, bit of advice, because I know people have been asking about that too. They're like, I'm having a hard time, because the ink is like, mushing everywhere. Just gentle little taps, just very gentle. It takes a little getting used to, and sometimes I still get a little bit of splotchiness. I'm fine with it. Again, perfection's overrated. This is all handmade, and you can cover it up with some splatter or a die cut or, all the other things. So anyway, I die cut more of that ivory cardstock with the Fancy Thanks wafer dies. And then I ended up cutting down that Desert Storm panel that I had stamped the friendship text on. And I adhered it directly to my card base before adhering everything else. Usually, I make my card front and then adhere it to the card base. This time I adhered it to the card base. And off camera, I had played around a bit with my arrangement. I've said this before. Floral arrangements are not my forte. I struggle. I struggle with that so much. And so, yeah, I played with it a bit. So I had a rough idea what I was doing at this point. Because otherwise, you guys would be sitting here with me going, no, yeah, no, this doesn't look good. Ew, gross. You know, it is what it is. But I figured it all out. And then I started adhering everything just with craft tacky glue, letting pieces. This is why I adhered the background to the card base, because I wanted bits of this to hang off the edge, because yes, I'm going to trim it off. I have had people literally freak out on me over this over the years. It's okay. It's just paper. And if you don't like doing that, you don't have to. Just don't let the pieces hang off. It's fine. But honestly, your brain just completes it when you're looking at it. It just works. And in some cases, like I'm going to do right there with that one piece, because I practically cut that little sunflower in half. I was like, ooh, this is big enough. I'm just going to stick it back onto the card. So I've got another one. Why not? So things like that. It just works. Or you can let it hang off and then just use a bigger envelope, because that can work too. In some cases, it looks great. Other times, but again, do what works for you, you know? So anyway, on the inside of the card, I stamped a sentiment from another oldie but goodie, the Greetings Mix 2 stamp set that I've been using a million times. I stamped that on the inside with VersaFine Clair Pine Cone ink, and then splatter. I was gonna, I wasn't gonna, I was gonna, I wasn't gonna, and of course it always wins out, like, obviously. I used my Gansai Tombi Starry Colors, the gold, as always, and my fan brush and my splat box, and did a little dance as I was splatting this. Trust me, I literally, because Chris was in here, he came in because he was done work as I was like doing that part, and I'm just like dancing around splattering a card, because that's what I do anyway. It's fun. It's another thing that, you know, like the ink smushing, splattering brings me joy. So did all that, let it dry, and then I adhered my die cut sentiment. Again, craft tacky glue, stuck that down, and then I went through my stash of bling, and I've got these sea foam embellishments from Trinity, which just, the color was perfect with the greenery, and yes, they also like complement my nail polish, so it was just one of those things where I'm like, this is all meant to be. You know, the heavens opened, the angels were singing, life was great. So I put a ton of these all over this card, because why not? So yeah, no rhyme or reason. I just sprinkled them heavily, really, and then adhered them into place with dabs of craft tacky glue. Once this is adhered into place, this card will be complete. Like I mentioned earlier in the video, I will have a link below the video in the description box that will link to my blog post, and in there I will link to the current color throwdown challenge. I'll have picture links to all the supplies, the photos, etc. All that'll be in the blog post. And then, of course, as always, in the description box below, I'll have my supply list and links right there as well. And then links to my social medias. You can follow me on my Facebooks and on my Instagrams. Haven't signed up for Threads yet. I don't know how I feel about that. We'll see where all that goes. But yeah, all that info is in the description box below if you guys are interested. Thank you all so very much for taking the time to watch my videos, for thumbs upping and commenting. Subscribe if you haven't. I'd love to have you. And I will see you all very soon in the next one. Bye.